Pokémon has been around for a very long time, and as we all know, it's all about battling and trading and collecting badges, and that's kind of what the games are. However, though, it does all boil down to one thing: Pokemon types. It allows a Pokemon to be strong against others and weak against others, and it gives it like the moves that it learns and everything like that. There are currently 18 total types as I'm making this video, but which is the worst and which is the best? Well, in today's video I'm going to be ranking every single Pokemon type from the worst to the best. Now of course this is all my own opinion at the end of the day, and it's completely cool if you guys disagree with what I say in the video. Don't hesitate though to drop a comment down below about the video and if you found it interesting or not. Don't forget to leave a like on this video too to show your support, and I'll be sure to bring out a new video very shortly. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to keep up to date, and follow my Twitter to updates about the channel. Both of those links can be found in the description down below. Now without further ado, let's get into the video and take a look at the worst to the best Pokemon types. So starting things off, as the worst Pokemon type in my opinion is the Ice type. The Ice type is just unfortunate because it is weak to 4 different types, being Fighting, Rock, Steel and Fire, and it only resists Ice, so it only resists itself. So it doesn't really have anything good going for it. It's not really super effective against many types at all. It's just not a great situation. It only resists Ice, so it is just like not many Pokemon do benefit from having this typing. It's a cool typing. I like a lot of Ice types. It doesn't really benefit from anything, but yeah, I do believe that the Ice type is the worst type in Pokemon. Coming up next is the Grass type. Now all we have to do is kind of look at the Grass type starter Pokemon to see how bad Grass type is. Venusaur, yes, it's good, but when you take a look at Meganium and Pokemon like that, they don't really get any benefit from being Grass types. All Grass types like to do is set up status conditions like Poison, Sleep, Stun Spore, everything like that, Paralysis, and kind of just do like aromatherapies, maybe a couple Giga Drains here and there, pop out a Leech Seed if you want. But that's kind of all they do. They're very passive Pokemon, and there's not many offensive Grass type Pokemon out there in the competitive scene. Yeah, they're good for being bulk and everything like that. They're good as defensive wolves, but unlike the physical side of things, they're not super great. But yeah, as a whole, it's just not a great typing. But yeah, that's why the Grass type is pretty bad. Coming up next, we have the Normal type. Now the Normal type is just always been that type that's never really been super effective against anything because it's not. It's obviously immune to Ghost and it is weak to Fighting, and that's kind of it. It's kind of crazy as well because obviously we have Arceus, which is the, god Pokemon, and that's the Normal type, and it's not even super effective against anything. Yes, it does have all the different types that it can get, but as its normal state, it ain't super effective against anything. It's nice to be, obviously immune to Ghost, but as a general saying, like, it's not a very good type because it's not strong against anything. Coming up next, we have the Flying type. Now the Flying type is an okay type, don't get me wrong, it is resistant to Fighting, Bug and Grass whilst being immune to Ground, but the problem with the Flying type Pokemon is Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks is something we see a lot in the competitive scene nowadays. Why wouldn't you? It's a very helpful move, obviously getting that damage off anything that switches in, and of course being a Flying type Pokemon, you're taking 25% every single time, so back in the day of like Gen 1, yeah, it was an okay typing, but now with Stealth Rocks being pretty much in every single game, it's not a great typing, unfortunately, for that reason. Come up next, we have the Bug type. Again, the same reason as Flying. Bug is of course weak to Rock, and Stealth Rocks has a field day with this typing as well. It's also weak to Flying, and obviously Rock, as I say, and Fire. It's only resistant to Fighting, Ground, and Grass, but like I say, Stealth Rocks does come through. If you're a Bug Flying type Pokemon, you're going to be taking 50% from every single time you jump in. So if you jump in twice, you're dead. You're going to have a Rapid Spinner or a Defogger or some sort of hazard removal to get rid of those hazards if you're running any kind of Bug or Flying type Pokemon, because taking 25% is a lot, especially if it's a bulky Pokemon like Togekiss. Coming in with that Flying type, it's not a great day at the office, but yes, that is why the Bug type isn't a great type. Come up next, we have the Poison type. Now the Poison type is resistant to Fighting, Poison, Bug, Grass, and Fairy, and it is only weak to Ground and Psychic, so a very nice trade-off there for what it's strong and weak against. However though, the only problem is there's not a bunch of really good Poison type Pokemon out there. There's no Poison legendary Pokemon. The only Poison mythical is if you put the Poison play on Arceus. Yeah, we do have an Ultra Beast in Ganondorf, which is a pretty good Pokemon, but that's like one of the only best Poison type Pokemon out there. If we got a good legendary Poison type, it'd definitely bring a lot more, action and combat to this typing. And yes, don't get me wrong, there are some good Poison types out there like Muk and Weezing and everything like that, but the fact that there isn't even a legendary of this type kind of shows that it needs a little bit of work still. But yes, that is the Poison type. Coming up next, we have the Fighting type. Now, the Fighting type Pokemon are weak to Flying, Psychic, and Fairy, whilst being resistant to Rock, Bug, and of course Dark. So it's a nice trade-off there. It's typically, you know, half and half. And fight types are nice. You know, you got Mach Punch, Close Combat. All of these hit really hard. If you just take a look at Mega Blaziken, that thing hits super hard. And like I said, we're kind of like halfway through the list now anyway, so the types are going to gradually get better. But I've not really got anything bad to say about fighting. There's just better types than it. But yeah, like I say, it's got really good priority moves, got really hard-hitting moves. You can get the bulky fighting types. It's just a nice type in general. But yes, that is the fighting type. Coming up next, we have the Ground type Pokemon. Now, Ground types are resistant to Poison, Rock, and are immune to Electric, of course, but are weak to Water, Grass, and Ice. Now, the only problem with Ground type Pokemon is that tend to be very, very slow, and obviously Water, Grass, Ice, you see a lot of those type of moves in the competitive scene, like Ice Beam, or, you know, Scald, or Surf, or something like that, and then Grass moves as well, Giga Drain. So you're pretty much going to be getting outsped if you are a Ground type Pokemon by these types, which isn't great, because if you take an Ice Beam or something like that, yes, Ground types tend to be bulky, but if they're taking that hit like first time every single turn, it's not a great situation. They hit super hard, obviously, with like Earthquake and everything like that. Really, really awesome. You got Earth Power as well for the special side of things, but unfortunately getting outsped a lot. Don't get me wrong, there are some fast ground types out there. It's just the general, you know, knowledge of this ground type is obviously that it's slow, but yeah, it's still a decent type at the end of the day. Coming up next, we have the Psychic type. Now, the Psychic type Pokemon are weak to Bug, Ghost, and Dark, and are resistant to Psychic and Fighting. Psychic type Pokemon were amazing in Generation 1. Alakazam kind of destroyed everything, but unfortunately, as time has gone on, and the addition of like Knockoff and stuff like that, it's really set Psychic types down the hole, because obviously in Gen 1 there were no Dark types, so it was only weak to Ghost and Bug, but of course Dark type got introduced, didn't really help it with Knockoff and everything like that, but Psychic types do of course hit super hard with like Psychic, Psyshock, Psycho Boost, everything like that. Something you guys may not know about this type though is the Psychic type's weaknesses tend to be replicated by what humans usually are scared of. So obviously humans tend to be scared of bugs, which is why it's, you know, weak to Bug type. Humans tend to be scared of the Dark, again another weakness of Psychic, and also humans tend to be scared of Ghosts, another typing that Psychic is obviously weak against. That's just the whole, you know, situation about that. Just a little bit of knowledge if you guys didn't know that. Coming up next, we have Dark type. Now, Dark type, of course, was introduced in Generation 2 with some pretty cool Pokemon, such as Umbreon and Houndoom and everything like that. Dark types tend to be pretty good Pokemon. They are, of course, only weak to Fighting and Bug and Fairy, and are obviously resistant to Ghost and Dark, and then obviously are immune to Psychic, which is pretty cool. However, though, something that's cool about Dark types is, like I've already said about Knockoff, is a very good move in the competitive scene. So if you got a Dark type with the Stab Knockoff, it's just going to be doing so much damage, because obviously when you're battling someone, they're pretty much going to, you know, tend to have an item on all of their Pokemon, so getting that double damage, taking that item off, you know, it's Stab, it's going to be doing so much, especially to Psychics and Ghosts. To be fair, it's going to do a lot to any kind of Pokemon, but if it's actually weak to Dark, you're going to be having an absolute field day. But Dark is a very good typing, which is why it is very high on this list. Coming up next, we have the Fire type Pokemon. Now, Fire types are kind of a hit and miss, so they are of course weak to Ground, Rock, and Water, but they do obviously resist Bug, they resist Steel, resist Fire, they resist Grass, they resist Ice, and they resist Fairy, so it's a nice trade-off there. They definitely got boosted when Fairy types did, you know, make their way to the competitive scene, having that advantage over them. They do resist the attacks. Not sure why, you know, Fire resists Fairy, but hey, it's Pokemon. Fire type, there's so many good Fire types out there, like, where do I even begin? There's just so many. You guys know how good these are. It's one of the starter trios, you know, typing. It's just generally a good typing, and I really do like the Fire type. But yes, it's a good typing at the end of the day. Coming up next, we have the Water type, another one of the types from the starter trio. Now, Water types are, of course, only weak to Grass and Electric, but they do resist Steel, Fire, Water, and Ice. So a very nice trade-off there, and there's some really good Water type Pokemon in the competitive scene. Obviously, Primal Kyogre, Milotic, anything like that. So very, very bulky Water types. They tend to be a little bit bulky, but you can obviously get the really offensive Water types as well, such as Greninja. You know, it's just such a good type. There's so many Pokemon that do have the Water type in it. It's just generally a very good typing, which is why obviously is so high in today's video. Coming up next, we have the Ghost type. Now, Ghosts are, of course, immune to Normal and Fighting. They resist Poison and they resist Bug, but they are, of course, weak to Ghost and Dark. So a very nice trade-off there. 2 immunities, 2 resistances, and only weak to 2 different types. So it's obviously very nice. There's also some very good moves that Ghost-type Pokemon do learn, such as Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak. You got your priority, you got your high-hitting special attacking moves, you got your high-hitting physical, you know, Ghost-type moves. It's just a very good typing in general, and yes, I do like the Ghost-type Pokemon. Coming up next, we have the electric type Pokemon. Now, electric types are only weak to ground, whereas they resist flying, they resist steel, and of course they resist electric as well. And of course, if you throw an air balloon on any electric type Pokemon, it's going to be immune to ground as well until that air balloon pops. So, kind of got an immunity to ground if you do hold that item. Like, a lot of people do like running air balloon on like Electivire, let's say, because it's obviously only weak to ground, and having that immunity is great because Electivire hits very hard. Obviously, they've got some really good moves as well, such as Thunder, you know, Shockwave, Thunder Punch, everything like that. You know, you got an electric type move for every single situation. Volt Switch for that switch initiative. Just a very good typing in general, and yes, I really like the electric type Pokemon. Coming up next, we have the Dragon type. Now, there's no wonder that Dragon type is pretty much given to every pseudo-legendary. It resists fire, water, grass, electric, and it is obviously weak to Ice and Dragon, and now weak to Fairy as well since Gen 6 did come out. I mean, it's kind of good that they did bring the Fairy type out because, you know, Dragon types were super OP, only having 2 weaknesses and resisting pretty much all the main types. And of course, like, they were all the pseudos as well, so they kind of just had that, you know, stat total that was just better than everything else anyway. So it's nice that Fairy types did get introduced to kind of combat that, but Dragon types are still insanely good in the competitive scene. You know, they are super effective against like Dragon and obviously like that, but they can learn so many different moves. Their move pool is just crazy. But yes, I really like the Dragon type Pokemon. Coming up next, we have the Fairy type, the newest type that we've been given since I'm making this video. Now, Fairy types do obviously resist fighting, they resist bug, and they obviously resist dark, and are immune to dragon, which is very nice. However, they are weak to poison and steel, which is a very nice trade-off to be fair. 3 resistances and immunity for 2 weaknesses isn't bad, but Fairy types, as we all know, hit super hard. Just look at Sylveon. That Pixelate Moonblast Hyper Voice does so much damage. It's just ridiculous, really. But yeah, there's so many good Fairy types out there. It's a very good type in the competitive scene. And yeah, that's all I've got really to say about it. It's just a very good typing. Finishing things off though, as the best type in the competitive scene, in my opinion, has to be Steel. Steel types resist normal, they resist flying, they're immune to poison, they resist rock, bug, steel, grass, they resist psychic, ice, dragon, and fairy, and are only weak to fighting, ground, and fire. That's a ridiculous trade-off for weaknesses and strengths. It's just stupid. Any Pokemon that has Steel type in its arsenal is already great because it's going to resist so many different types. It's just such a good type. You get some good hard-hitting Steel type moves as well. It's just a very good type. It's so bulky, you know, you can be taking hits with kind of any Steel type. Just look at Skarmory, for instance. Skarmory is very good. But yeah, Steel type is just ridiculous, which is why I do believe it is the best type in the competitive scene. With that though, it does wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you did enjoy the video though, please do leave a like. I would really appreciate it. Like I said at the start of the video, I would also love to hear your guys' opinions too on this subject, so be sure to leave them in the comment section below. I do have a couple top 5s coming onto your screen in a second, so be sure to give them a watch if you do have the time. And of course, you know, subscribe if you do enjoy my content. That is everything from me though, guys, so thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day, and until next time, guys, peace.